Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Icon Elevate. As you know, we love bringing these tremendous Icon team members to you so you can hear their story. And I think we've got a great story today. So it's my great pleasure to welcome to Icon Elevate, Nigel Middlebrook. Nigel, how are you? Welcome.
I'm great. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the invitation.
Great to have you join us. I believe you're sitting at Icon Freemasons right now, which is in Melbourne.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, not too far from the CBD, walking distance, actually.
Yeah, good to hear. What's the weather like in Melbourne at the moment? As you probably know, my mum lives in Ballarat. It has been very, very wet.
It has, yeah. So I guess the rest of Australia, or a lot of the East Coast, has had the wet weather this year. It's sort of caught up to us this weekend. So probably a lot of indoor activity this weekend, I think. Lots of Netflix streaming, I think. A lot of things to catch up on.
I bet. Good stuff. Nigel, got a few questions for you. I think that'll really interest the Icon team across our global network. And first up, Melbourne's now home. You haven't always been in Melbourne. I think when I first met you, I think you were in Brisbane, and then you went to Perth for us. You currently lead our Victorian and Tasmania physics operations. But as I just mentioned, you've travelled all over Australia and have played a very critical role in the expansion of our radiation oncology service, and from really, really early times, way back when we were just emerging on this amazing growth trajectory that we've had. Tell us some of the highlights of your journey, geographically, professionally. What have been the things that you're most proud of?
Yeah, well, you did summarise it pretty well there, Mark. I did start with Icon in Queensland. Was planning to move across to the West Coast, which was a new frontier for me, but started actually at Gold Coast Private when we were commissioning there and opened up the department there. And then, moved across to Perth with our first site, Midland. I think that was around mid-2017. I've been fortunate since then just to be involved in a lot of the different commissioning projects as we've opened up sites all across the country. So I think geographically, one of the highlights would have to be Hobart. I think it's pretty unique to have a radiotherapy centre right smack bang in the middle of downtown. And when we were commissioning there, it was the spring, which is a great time of year in Tassie, with daylight saving, the days being a little bit longer. So, you could walk down a few blocks and you're down in the waterfront in the early evening, which was really nice.
Yeah, I hope you weren't down at the waterfront too early in the evening and you were on the machine.
No, just enough to get some fresh air at the end of the day, but beautiful long evenings there.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point, Nigel. The opportunity to travel around and do these things in different locations. It's quite an exciting time for a medical physicist when you have that sort of growth, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah. And even when I started in the career, it's not something that you would normally think, travel, you could associate with travel. And one of the highlights, professionally has been sort of going over to Vietnam, I think. So even just that travel to a developing country, didn't really associate that with the medical physics work. So I've been fortunate enough to be there twice, once before Icon and once with Icon. The first opportunity was at a government hospital, which was a bit of an eye-opener, just in sort of the contrast of having just patients and families just lining the stairwells because there was no room in any of the wards for them to stay while they had their treatment. But then, they were still having treatment on modern linear accelerators. So just that, stark contrast in the hospitals of this country obviously trying to accelerate and provide sort of first world healthcare. And the opportunity with Icon was obviously through the VMEC hospital, which we've developed a partnership with. And that was pretty exciting just to be involved in the commissioning project with some of the on-site staff for one of the first true beams there in the country. And
wow.
Yeah, it was really good. We obviously had a team of physicists that went to Vietnam. I only spent a short period of time there. We had a few others that spent a bit longer, but also supported by a team back in Australia. And I think, sort of what we worked on then had really sort of helped us and learning from that as we sort of worked through the challenges of the last few years and being sort of forced to work a lot more virtually.
I'd forgotten about that Vietnam experience for you when you and the team commissioned a linear accelerator in Ho Chi Minh City for our friends at VinMec. Just really briefly, Nigel, commissioning a machine in Vietnam versus commissioning a machine in Australia, how different?
Pretty different. There's obviously a bit of a cultural side to it as well. And just, I guess, we didn't have the full remote access into the area or into, all the things that we take for granted over here. So just, sort of having to rely on meeting deadlines to send stuff back to colleagues here to review and vice versa. That was a bit of a challenging time, but like I said, lessons learned and helped us through the last couple of years.
Yeah, good stuff. What a great career and traveling around so much. I hope that inspires so many people across Icon, because we've got a lot more growth to come. Now, you grew up in Queensland.
Yep.
Was medical physics always the career you wanted to pursue?
No, I really had no idea. I just really studied physics as an undergrad at uni because I enjoyed doing it in high school. Didn't really put much thought into practical jobs at the end of it. Got close to the end of the degree, and one of the lecturers mentioned, doing a master's in medical physics, which would help for practical jobs, and obviously one of the bigger sources of jobs being in radiation oncology, medical physics. So I thought, I'll give that a go. I probably need to think about earning money after uni. And then, when I sort of enrolled in that course and heard from some of the guest lecturers who were already working in the industry and attended sites, then, I really sort of found that I had a passion for it. It's a great blend as a physicist, just with the daily blend of working in a team environment, in a multidisciplinary team environment, with a bit of science, and I guess that overall satisfaction that what we do daily has a direct impact on people's healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. Good on you. As you probably from watching these interviews, I love hearing about people's passions. Now, someone in the team has told me that you are an enormous Spider-Man fan. I'm keen to know how this came about and how big is your collection of memorabilia. I love hearing about people's passions. I am a fan. I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan. I wouldn't say that Spider-Man is my favourite superhero, but what's the obsession with Spider-Man and how big is the collection?
What's the obsession? It's probably, I can't really pinpoint what the exact obsession or how, sort of how it started with Spider-Man and I guess the Marvel comics in particular. But as a kid, I just sort of, started collecting them. So I have a few boxes at home, probably over 300 or so printed ones.
Wow.
Not one of those avid collectors that stores them in mint condition. I bought them as a kid to read them and enjoy them. These days, obviously, you can access them all online, so I don't really tend to buy any printed ones anymore. But I think just as a kid, it was, it's one of those things that was probably a bit nerdy as a kid to be into comic books. Stereotypically, I think all the other kids were into skateboarding and sports and stuff, which I obviously enjoyed the sports. But, these days now it's a, huge multi-billion-dollar industry that they're pumping out all these TV shows and stuff. So it's pretty cool to see, stuff that I enjoyed as a kid that's, so popular now in pop culture, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting with obscure interests, Nigel, as you're talking. I'm just thinking about when I was a little kid, I think it was 1978. It's the Spider-Man annual. And I remember it was my first introduction to Spider-Man, the Punisher, and another hero I think has been lost to the sands of time, Doc Savage.
Yes, yeah.
The Man of Bronze, and I've never forgotten that. So, look, I'm a nerd too. Don't worry about that. But look, it's tremendous to have those interests, and I think you'll find there's a lot of Spider-Man fans. And as you know, with great power comes great responsibility.
That's right. Yeah. So that isn't a quote to come from a comic book.
It's true. A lot to learn from comic books. Well, we know you're a Spider-Man fan. We know you like reading comics. What else do you like to do to relax away from work?
Well, I'm trying to get back into some more hobbies. So I've been sort of focusing on study for the last little while, and it's amazing once you finish that how much sort of more free time you find and energy. I'm trying a new gym routine at the moment. Just signed up to a new gym that's close to home, and I would love to try and get back into tennis here in Melbourne. I was sort of got back into that in Perth. I guess a bit of inspiration coming up with the Australian Open here. Hopefully they let all the players in this year.
Yeah.
I don't think people sort of realise you can actually hire some of the courts at Melbourne Park to play on just casually. So
wow,
pretty unique.
So do you do that? You play there?
Yeah, I played there before, and there's obviously some courts close to work and around town. Yeah, pretty easy to access.
So could we put together a physics tennis team? Are we that good?
We'll see. I've been challenged by one of the interstate physics colleagues before, but I don't think we've ever actually, a lot of trash talk, but I don't think we've actually had a match yet.
The unknown world of physics and tennis. There you go. Well
Yeah.
done. Now, Nigel, I like to end these interviews with some rapid fire questions. You know, I love reading. What book do you recommend that I read?
I really enjoy the Jack Reacher series. I'm not sure if you've read any of those ones. They're pretty light entertainment, just really good to disconnect. And there's a new one that they publish every year, so I usually buy my dad a copy for Christmas on the proviso that once he's finished reading it, he gives it back to me. So yeah, I'd probably recommend those if you're looking for some light entertainment.
So, what about the movie version? Worth watching?
Well, not the Tom Cruise one. No, they've recently done a mini series. So one of the things with Jack Reacher is he's 6'11", physically imposing guy. Tom Cruise was a pretty poor choice given
He's not Tom Cruise.
No,
that's what I was getting at. I've actually read that. I haven't watched is it on Netflix?
I think it's Amazon.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. I've heard it's good.
Yeah, so it's a different. Yeah, they've obviously sort of taken that physically imposing actor, a lot taller than Tom Cruise, and I think they've done a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, good stuff. Who's inspired Nigel Middlebrook to be his best?
I'd probably have to say my parents. So when they moved here from Canada in the mid-'80s, they moved to Australia. They didn't really have a lot of money behind them. They were both from fairly large families. And they've obviously worked through a lot, sacrificed a lot, and now have a pretty successful small business and hopefully a comfortable retirement on the card. So I think a lot of my work ethic has sort of come from them and striving to sort of be the best.
Great answer. It amazes me how many people I ask that question, they say their parents, and I would say the same. This will age you a little bit, Nigel, and given your nerddom with Spider-Man, this is going to be a very interesting question. First music album you ever bought?
Well, I don't think it's too nerdy, but I think it might be Oasis, the album with Wonderwall on it.
Definitely Maybe, was that the album?
Definitely, yeah, I think that was it, yeah.
Definitely Maybe. Mid-90s?
Mid-90s, yeah. And
yeah, they were huge. There you go. So you're not that, it doesn't age you that badly. But there you go, a great band that could have been so much more.
Could have been. And if anyone has been to karaoke with me, they'll usually hear me trying to belt out Wonderwall.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, a couple of spontaneous questions. I know you are an avid traveller. Favourite place to visit?
Probably Japan. So I'm trying to look to go back there. I mean, they've obviously just recently reopened their borders to all travellers. Just a great place to go with, the blend of culture. It's safe to travel around. Lots of things to do, including snowboarding. So probably Japan, I'd say.
Good stuff. And what about in Australia? Favourite place to have some downtime?
I think we're pretty fortunate in Australia, just how much we can see, not far out from the city. So I think there's a lot of, I've been lucky enough to travel all across Australia. So I think just anywhere in country Australia, I just enjoy getting out of the city.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, Nigel Middlebrook, thank you so much for joining us on Icon Elevate. You've had an amazing journey with us so far. I can't wait to see where else this takes you, both in Australia and beyond. Thanks for all the hard work, and thanks for your expertise, and thanks for sharing your story on Icon Elevate.
That's great. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the opportunity to have a chat with you today.